July 29th, 1981. Clarence House, 6:47 a.m. Queen Mother Elizabeth sat in her private sitting room, watching television coverage of her grandson Charles's wedding to Lady Diana Spencer. But instead of joy on the 81-year-old matriarch's face, there was something far darker, a cold fury that had been building since the engagement announcement 6 months earlier. As millions around the world celebrated the fairy tale wedding, the Queen Mother was already planning Diana's destruction. This wasn't just disapproval of an unsuitable bride. This was personal hatred that would span 2 decades and ultimately contribute to one of the most tragic stories in royal history. But the shocking truth is that the Queen Mother's hatred of Diana didn't begin with the engagement announcement. It began 50 years earlier, with a grudge so deep and so personal that it would poison the royal family for generations. The origin of hatred. 1936. The Spencer betrayal. To understand the Queen Mother's hatred of Diana, you have to go back to 1936 and the abdication crisis that nearly destroyed the monarchy. When King Edward VIII abdicated to marry American divorcee Wallis Simpson, it thrust the Duke of York, later King George VI, and his wife Elizabeth onto the throne they never wanted. But what history books don't tell you is the role Diana's grandfather, Earl Spencer, played in that crisis. Earl Spencer had been a close friend and advisor to Edward VIII. When the constitutional crisis reached its peak, the royal family desperately needed allies in the aristocracy to support the new King George VI. Earl Spencer had promised his support. Instead, he betrayed them. At the crucial moment, Earl Spencer publicly supported Edward VIII's right to marry Wallis Simpson and questioned whether George VI was truly fit to be king. His betrayal was reported in every newspaper and nearly triggered a constitutional collapse. The future Queen Mother never forgave the Spencer family for that betrayal. She saw it as treason against the crown and against her personally. The Spencers have always been unreliable, she told her daughter Elizabeth years later. They put their own interests above duty to the crown. Never trust a Spencer. When Diana Spencer became engaged to Prince Charles 45 years later, the Queen Mother saw history repeating itself. But there was an even more personal reason for her hatred: the jealousy factor. 1981. The young beauty versus the aging matriarch. At 81, Queen Mother Elizabeth had been the most beloved royal for decades. She was the grandmother of the nation, the woman who had stood by her husband through World War II, the matriarch who commanded respect and adoration from the British public. Then along came 19-year-old Diana Spencer. Within months of the engagement announcement, Diana's popularity began to eclipse even the Queen Mother's legendary status. The press called her a breath of fresh air in the dusty royal establishment. The public was enchanted by her youth, her style, her obvious nervousness and humanity. But what really triggered the Queen Mother's fury was a comment made by a journalist at Diana's first official engagement. Finally, the royal family has someone the people can relate to. Someone real, someone modern, someone who understands ordinary people's struggles. The implication was clear. The Queen Mother and the rest of the royal family were out of touch. Outdated, irrelevant. How dare they? The Queen Mother raged to her lady-in-waiting. I've served this country for 50 years. I held this monarchy together during the war, and they prefer some silly girl who's done nothing but marry well. The Queen Mother's legendary charm began to curdle into something much darker. Don't miss this shocking detail: how the Queen Mother began her campaign to destroy Diana. The sabotage begins. August 1981, the honeymoon briefings. While Charles and Diana were on their honeymoon aboard the royal yacht Britannia, the Queen Mother was busy poisoning the well against the new Princess of Wales. She began with Charles himself. In a series of private consultations at Clarence House, the Queen Mother systematically undermined Diana's confidence in her new husband's eyes. Charles, darling, you must be firm with Diana. She's very young and will try to modernize things too quickly. The monarchy has traditions for a reason. I'm concerned about Diana's emotional stability. She seems rather highly strung. Perhaps she needs more guidance about royal duty. Diana's popularity with the press is dangerous. She must learn that the monarchy isn't about personal fame, it's about service and sacrifice. Each conversation planted seeds of doubt in Charles's mind about his new wife. But the Queen Mother's real target was Diana herself. She began with small cruelties designed to undermine Diana's confidence. At Diana's first family gathering after the honeymoon, the Queen Mother deliberately seated her at the children's table, saying perhaps Diana would be more comfortable with the younger family members. When Diana tried to discuss her ideas for royal engagements, the Queen Mother cut her off. My dear, you're far too inexperienced to understand how these things work. Leave the planning to those of us who know what we're doing. Most cruelly, she began commenting on Diana's appearance. Such a tall girl. I hope she doesn't tower over Charles in photographs. So unflattering for the monarchy. But these were just warm-up exercises for the Queen Mother's real campaign of destruction. The psychological warfare. 1982-1985, death by 1,000 cuts. The Queen Mother's campaign against Diana was masterfully subtle. She never made direct attacks that could be criticized. Instead, she used psychological warfare, designed to isolate Diana from the family and undermine her confidence. At family dinners, the Queen Mother would engage everyone in conversation except Diana, leaving the young princess sitting in painful silence. When Diana tried to contribute to discussions about royal duties, the Queen Mother would respond with phrases like, "How refreshing to hear such innocent perspectives," praising Diana while simultaneously dismissing her as naive. The Queen Mother began spreading subtle rumors about Diana's mental health. "I'm rather worried about Diana. She seems so emotional lately. Perhaps the pressure is getting to her. Diana's been looking quite thin. I do hope she's eating properly. Young girls today have such odd relationships with food. Charles mentioned Diana's been having trouble sleeping. Such a nervous disposition. I do hope it's not hereditary." Each comment was designed to paint Diana as unstable, unreliable, and unsuitable for royal life. But the Queen Mother's cruelest weapon was her influence over the palace staff, the Servant Rebellion. 1983, turning the household against Diana. The Queen Mother had been the royal matriarch for over 40 years. Palace staff revered her, trusted her judgment, and followed her lead without question. She began using this influence to make Diana's daily life miserable. Staff who had been friendly to Diana suddenly became formal and distant. Her requests were forgotten or delayed. Her preferences were ignored in favor of traditional ways of doing things. When Diana complained to Charles about the staff's behavior, he dismissed her concerns. "They're just set in their ways, Diana. You need to be more patient." What Charles didn't know was that his grandmother was orchestrating every slight, every inconvenience, every moment of discomfort Diana experienced. The Queen Mother's most devastating move was turning Diana's own protection officers against her. She convinced them that Diana was unstable and needed to be managed rather than protected. They began reporting Diana's every movement, every conversation, every emotional moment back to the Queen Mother. Diana found herself isolated in her own home, surrounded by people who reported to her enemy. You won't believe what the Queen Mother did when Diana's popularity continued to grow. The Camilla Conspiracy. 1986, the ultimate betrayal. When Diana's marriage to Charles began to deteriorate, the Queen Mother saw an opportunity for her masterstroke. She would not only destroy Diana's happiness, but ensure that Charles returned to a woman the Queen Mother could control. The Queen Mother had known Camilla Parker Bowles for years and approved of her completely. Camilla was everything Diana wasn't. Older, experienced, from an acceptable background, and most importantly, she understood her place in the royal hierarchy. The Queen Mother began actively encouraging Charles to resume his relationship with Camilla. "Charles, you seem so unhappy lately. Perhaps you need someone who truly understands you. Camilla has always been such a sensible girl, so unlike these modern women who think marriage is about romance rather than duty. You know, darling, kings throughout history have had arrangements. It's perfectly natural for a man in your position." When Diana discovered Charles's affair and came to the Queen Mother for support, expecting sympathy from one woman to another, she was met with ice-cold hostility. "Diana, if you cannot keep your husband happy, perhaps you should examine your own shortcomings rather than blaming others. Marriage is about duty, not fairy tales. You would do well to accept reality. Charles has responsibilities that transcend personal happiness, as should you." The Queen Mother's message was clear. Diana was the problem, not Charles's infidelity. But the Queen Mother's cruelest move was yet to come. The grandchildren weapon. 1987, 1992, poisoning the well. When William and Harry were born, Diana hoped the Queen Mother's attitude might soften. Surely the matriarch would want a close relationship with her great-grandchildren. Instead, the Queen Mother used the children as weapons against Diana. She constantly criticized Diana's parenting. "Diana is far too emotional with those boys. They need discipline, not coddling. I'm concerned about Diana's influence on William and Harry. They're being raised like ordinary children, rather than future kings. Diana's taking the boys to McDonald's and theme parks. How common. They should be learning about duty and service, not having fun." Most devastatingly, the Queen Mother began subtly turning William and Harry against their mother. "Your mother means well, boys. but she doesn't understand royal traditions like we do. When you're older, you'll understand that being royal means sacrifice. Your mother hasn't quite grasped that yet. Your father works so hard for the country. I hope you appreciate him more than some people do." Each comment was designed to plant seeds of doubt about Diana in her own children's minds. Don't miss this shocking revelation. What the Queen Mother said about Diana's death. The final victory. August 31st, 1997. No tears for Diana. When news of Diana's death reached the royal family at Balmoral, the world expected to see genuine grief from the Queen Mother. After all, Diana was the mother of her great-grandchildren, a young woman who had died tragically. Instead, according to staff who were present, the Queen Mother's first reaction was relief. "Well," she reportedly said to her lady-in-waiting, "that's that problem solved." When pressed to show public grief for the cameras, the Queen Mother was reluctant. "I won't be a hypocrite. Diana was a disruptive force who nearly destroyed this monarchy. I'm sorry for William and Harry's loss, but I won't pretend to mourn someone who caused us nothing but trouble." The Queen Mother's hatred was so deep that even death couldn't soften it. During the week between Diana's death and funeral, while the rest of the royal family struggled with public pressure to show grief, the Queen Mother remained coldly practical. "The boys will recover. Children are resilient. Perhaps now they can be raised properly, without Diana's dramatic influence. Charles is free to marry Camilla now. Finally, some stability. The monarchy will be stronger without Diana's constant need for attention and drama." Her 16-year campaign of hatred had finally succeeded. Diana was gone. But the Queen Mother's victory would prove to be Pyrrhic, the legacy of hatred. 1997-2002. The cost of victory. In the years following Diana's death, the Queen Mother discovered that destroying Diana had also damaged the monarchy she had spent her life protecting. Public anger at the royal family's cold response to Diana's death nearly triggered a Republican revolution. The Queen Mother, who had expected relief at Diana's death, instead found herself dealing with unprecedented criticism of the royal family. William and Harry, the great-grandchildren she had hoped to influence, grew up knowing exactly how their great-grandmother had treated their mother. They became distant, formal, dutiful but not loving in their relationship with her. Most painfully for the Queen Mother, Diana's death had made her more popular than ever. The woman she had spent 16 years trying to destroy became a saint in the public mind, while the Queen Mother was increasingly seen as a relic of a cruel, outdated system. The deathbed regret. March 30th, 2002. The Queen Mother's final words. As Queen Mother Elizabeth lay dying at age 101, she was reportedly visited by a priest who asked if she had any regrets about her long life. According to sources present, her final coherent words were about Diana. "I was wrong about the Spencer girl. She was stronger than I thought. And now she's won. Even in death, the boys will never forgive us for how we treated their mother. I've lost my great-grandchildren's love for nothing. I thought I was protecting the monarchy, but I may have destroyed it instead." The Queen Mother died, knowing that her 16-year campaign of hatred against Diana had backfired spectacularly. The truth revealed. The Queen Mother's hatred of Diana wasn't about protecting the monarchy or maintaining traditions. It was about a powerful woman who couldn't bear to share the spotlight with someone younger, more popular, and more relatable. Her campaign of psychological warfare, family manipulation, and deliberate cruelty didn't just destroy Diana's happiness. It poisoned the royal family for generations. William and Harry's eventual distance from royal duties, their criticism of royal treatment of their mother, and their determination to modernize the monarchy all stem from watching their great-grandmother's systematic destruction of the woman they loved most. The Queen Mother got her victory. Diana was destroyed, but she lost the war. The monarchy she thought she was protecting was irreparably damaged by her cruelty. Some hatred runs so deep it destroys everything it touches, including the person who harbors it. The ultimate irony, the greatest irony of the Queen Mother's story, is that Diana, the woman she spent 16 years trying to destroy, became everything the Queen Mother had been. Beloved by the public, seen as the heart of the royal family, mourned as a national treasure. Meanwhile, the Queen Mother's reputation has never recovered from the revelation of her cruelty toward Diana. History remembers her not as the beloved matriarch who saved the monarchy during World War II, but as the bitter old woman who tortured a young mother for the crime of being popular. In trying to destroy Diana, the Queen Mother destroyed her own legacy. Sometimes the person you try to eliminate becomes the standard by which you're judged. And sometimes that judgment is not kind.